Our webinar topic today is Driving Success at Tesla Energy with Rootstock and Revenova, featuring Aaron Sanders, Associate Manager, Solar Supply Chain, Solar City/Tesla Energy, as he shares his insights into the success the company has realized with the combined solution of Rootstock ERP software and Revenova Transportation Management System. Manufacturers and distributors who move to cloud ERP will find that Rootstock ERP, combined with Revenova, both based on the Salesforce ecosystem, will quickly install to boost their ability to access big data on demand, gain important business intelligence, and use this information to coordinate and collaborate with every department at every step in the supply chain and stay ahead of the competition. We will also hear from our additional presenters, Michael Horvath, Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer, Revenova, and David Stevens, Chief Customer Officer, Rootstock Software. Moving on to some housekeeping. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. We've taken a screenshot of an example of the attendee interface. You should see something that looks like this on your own computer desktop in the upper right corner. You're listening in using your computer speaker system by default. If you prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. All attendees will be on mute throughout the presentation. You'll have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. I'd now like to introduce our first speaker, David Stevens. David Stevens, as Rootstock's Chief Customer Officer, Dave Stevens directs and manages all customer solution architecture and customer acquisition activities. With over 20 years of manufacturing and technology experience and a proven track record of taking the customer experience to new levels of productivity and profitability, Dave has an extensive background in manufacturing and supply chain optimization that, when coupled with Rootstock's product depth and breadth, delivers a formula for success for Rootstock's customers. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you, David. Good day, everyone. First, let me apologize for a little bit of hoarseness in my voice. I've been battling a cold over the last few days, and it's not let totally go yet. And I've tried all kinds of software technologies, and nothing seems to be knocking it out. So hopefully this comes across well. I'll try to be as clear as possible. So, David, if you could move to the Rootstock in 30-second slide.
So the
first slide. Great. So we're going to just give you a little bit of introduction to Rootstock as a brief on the company. So we are a company that's founded by a number of executives who've come out of years and years and years, as David mentioned, of ERP expertise and manufacturing, distribution, products and services oriented companies. And we wanted to craft an enterprise ERP capability that allowed customers to leverage best-in-class technology combined with the legacy types of functionality that businesses have become used to in today's ERP market to have the best of both worlds. You're no longer having to make a decision for a legacy technology that's decades old to try to look towards the future. You can leverage full, robust functional capabilities in Rootstock ERP combined with the latest and greatest technology platform, because Rootstock is based on Salesforce, which is recognized around the world as a leading enterprise cloud application technology platform. We serve three primary markets today. We work with customers that are replacing legacy ERP with a complete cloud-based ERP system. We work with companies that are engaging Rootstock to potentially take on elements of Rootstock capability to implement within portions of their business. That portion of the business might be a specific business process. As the case, we're joined here today by Solar City Tesla Energy. Their approach with Rootstock was to start with an implementation around supply chain planning, the Revenova Transportation Management Suites, and they've taken first advantage of those types of capabilities versus an end-to-end ERP construct. Companies are making their way into these types of cloud ERP markets in those scenarios, or they're looking at portions of their business, for instance, a business division or an entity of their business to implement an end-to-end ERP solution in. And finally, we're seeing companies that are emerging into the market as first-time ERP buyers. This typically is small to mid-sized companies that may have been running a focused accounting application and trying to drive the rest of the operational side of their business on documents or spreadsheet management systems. And now they're looking to facilitate further growth in their business, driving out value through an end-to-end ERP implementation. So that's a little bit about who we are. You'll also recognize here, last year we were awarded Frost & Sullivan's Best-in-Class Cloud ERP Solution Award, which was a great award, and we were happy to receive that award. And we've been recognized in the past several months from other awards as well. Next slide. This is what we call a subway map or a train stop map, which gives you an illustration of the variety of different business processes that Rootstock supports. As an end-to-end ERP, you'll see that all of the specific Rootstock business processes are denoted on the train stop dots there on the illustration on the diagram for the different business processes. You'll also notice in the front end of the process, we're supported by best-in-class Salesforce applications around concepts like marketing and campaign management, managing leads and inbound opportunities from accounts and customers. And that's where Rootstock picks up and begins the process of managing additional capabilities with operational quoting, sales order management, available to promise capabilities for promising and managing delivery commitments to customers. Rootstock supports full capabilities in product development, engineering your product, design and developing. When you take that customer demand, forecasted demand, and the concept of what it takes to produce your product or deliver services to customers, Rootstock provides planning engines which take those inputs and output recommendations. The outputting of those recommendations may result in purchasing recommendations for what to buy from our supply chain, services and products that we need to procure in order to meet those customer demands, and managing the downstream process of procurement, whether that be PO receipts, flowing all the way to accounts payable activities, three-way match functions, and then moving into financials. As we purchase goods from our supply chain, we're managing those goods in internal inventories, we're moving those goods, we're managing warehouse capabilities, even down to complexities like lot serial control, shelf life management, and full traceability. Those inventories then are put together in value-added bills of material and production processes, which allow us to turn those raw materials and goods into end products for our customers as demanded by those customers. And that's where Rootstock comes in with production planning and production scheduling capabilities to manage both the materials aspects of manufacturing as well as the capacity management aspects. As we're going through the process of materials management and capacity planning and action within our distribution or manufacturing supply chain, we're tracking all of those costs. So we're able to accurately cost product as it moves through our supply chain, even to the point of potentially breaking out different levels of projects and customer engagements that we have that may need to not only be costed to financials, but costed in and of themselves as well. And those cost activities flow through to general ledger, which rolls up into other financial reporting as well for traditional financial management around profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow statements, and other common financial reporting. As we fulfill customer orders, Rootstock is managing that process for us, handling logistics aspects of planning for fulfillment, executing customer fulfillment, invoicing, and flowing those through to receivables. As you look to the far right of the diagram, we get to the end of the right side of the train stops, and you'll see concepts like cases and service level agreements being supported again by core Salesforce applications in sales and service, and those feeding into operational service activities like return material authorizations or activities around repair or refurbishment to meet customer requirements for issues that arise in the field after fulfillment to the original customer requirement. So that's a little bit about the business process scope that Rootstock together with Salesforce manage in an end-to-end ERP environment. And you'll notice at the bottom of this slide illustrates capabilities that we also leverage Salesforce for in Rootstock's technical development capabilities, where we're leveraging Rootstock's platform technology capabilities in all of the areas noted below the train stop diagram. Concepts like scalability and security, database management, mobile services capabilities, collaboration with great tools like Chatter on the Salesforce platform, being able to incorporate your specific business process workflows and approval workflows in Salesforce's workflow tools, reporting and dashboards, analytics, and the ability to get information in and out of your ERP system through strong API management capabilities. Those fundamental technology platform elements that I've just described are part of the Salesforce platform that, because Rootstock is built inside Salesforce, it fully leverages those capabilities. And this is true for Revenova as well. We're all leveraging that same core capability of the Salesforce technical platform. Next slide. Just quickly recognizing the Salesforce platform, this slide identifies a number of different independent industry analysts, whether it be IDC, Forrester, and Gartner on the right, denoting the strength of the Salesforce technology platform. So Salesforce is being recognized today not just as a leading Sales Cloud CRM management company and Service Cloud service case management company, but also as a fundamental technology cloud that companies like Rootstock and Revenova can leverage in a single operating environment for the benefit of our customers. Next slide. To talk a little bit more about how leveraging this capability of this platform enables Rootstock to differentiate a customer experience that goes beyond traditional ERP systems and moves clients into a new opportunity for value realization, we can talk a little bit how this is built. We talked on the bottom of this slide, if you look, you'll see the Salesforce One platform concept, and then you build upon that. So on the left-hand side of this slide, we're showing core capabilities of Salesforce in application areas like Sales Cloud and Service Cloud, representing those business processes that we defined previously on the train stop map. In the middle, applications like Rootstock, Revenova, and other partner applications that are available via the App Exchange have built their technologies, in the case of Rootstock, a robust operational and financial ERP system inside that same technology environment so that customers can pick the Rootstock application, marry it with the Revenova application, have the construct that they're already using potentially of Salesforce Sales Cloud and Service Cloud capability, and pulling all of that together into a best-in-class, world-class solution to meet their business needs. And then really augmenting and multiplying the effectiveness of those core solutions that are built as standard applications on the platform is what we see on the right. It's the power of the Salesforce platform, the customer, to then add additional applications, additional business logic to their unique customer differentiation scenarios through what we call, it's commonly referred to as clicks, not code, or configuration and not development, in order to further differentiate the value they provide to their customers on the Salesforce platform. So not just the standard applications that we deliver combined with the world-class applications that Salesforce delivers combined with the strength of the platform, but the power of the platform for the customer to configure their unique business process scenario. And that's what the custom apps and configuration environment on the right of this slide is depicting. One of the biggest differentiators for the ability to configure in a Salesforce-based solution with Rootstock and Revenova is also the fact that those configurations that customers make live on always in their specific environment. So as the applications are upgraded, customers don't face a legacy challenge where they're no longer available to be upgraded on the part of their technology partners. Rootstock, Revenova, Salesforce all continue to upgrade, even though the customer has tailored their experience to their unique business process. And that is another unique capability and power of the Salesforce platform. Next slide. So we showed the previous train stop map with a vision of end-to-end ERP and the different business processes that reflects. And this is a great example as we transition into Revenova's introduction of the fact that you can take tools like Revenova, which is a very strong transportation management system, and directly connect it to key processes within the core Rootstock ERP chain. So as you can see here, we'll take an application like Revenova, again, built inside Salesforce, and we'll connect it to inbound purchasing receipts or intra-company movement of materials for transportation of materials from one site to another. And then finally, sales logistics on the outbound side to deliver products to customers. The Revenova tool is specially designed to manage those types of business processes and transportation management, and it connects seamlessly to those core ERP processes. There are other examples within the App Exchange that provide the same kind of benefit to the customer, but the customer can pick and choose based on specific business need, given the nature of the Salesforce ecosystem and the power of those independent applications. Next slide. This is just a quick view of some of our customers, give you a sense of a wide variety of different industries, a wide variety of different size of companies. And then finally, just to denote where Solar City fits into that customer footprint is in the enterprise realm of existing Rootstock customers. Tesla Energy, you'll notice up in the upper left, Direct Energy Solar. ProMat is a European company where they took a two-tier strategy and implemented Rootstock ERP in their US-based operations as they transitioned from distribution to full manufacturing here in the United States to support their North American customers. It's a great two-tier ERP strategy story. And then other companies like Nexius managing complex supply chains and end-to-end ERP requirements within Rootstock. So thank you very much for allowing us to take a few minutes and introduce Rootstock, and I'll let David introduce Revenova.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dave. I'd like to now introduce Mike Horvath of Revenova. Mike Horvath is the Chief Marketing Officer of Revenova, based in Chicago, Illinois. Revenova is a cloud application development company focused on transportation management solutions. Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you, David, and good day, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. I'll first going to briefly just introduce you to Revenova and what our TMS does, and then I will be turning it over to Aaron Sanders to actually walk through his specific implementation of both Rootstock and Revenova. But if you think about what David just described, are the multiple touch points between what a TMS and an ERP, and even on the CRM and service applications that live on the Salesforce platform, the platform having that synchronization kind of runs like your business wants to be synchronized. So here's a good example as we go through the introduction of the benefits of a kind of CRM powered or Force.com powered transportation management solution interacting with a on-platform ERP system like Rootstock and potentially even other applications that live on the platform. We have this seamless ability to share information and move things back and forth. And so sell more effectively by providing real-time freight quotes in the sales process, long before you're maybe even thinking about actually booking a carrier, but getting pricing to your sales team effectively. Having real-time freight tracking, making sure you know where everything's at so it can improve your customer service experience and make sure that your logistics meet your customers' expectations and your carrier performance expectations. And of course, looking at how you move things through the different modes of transportation, whether it's less than truckload, train loads, making sure that you're optimizing that freight, both inbound and outbound, and all the multiple touch points that happen between an ERP, an accounting environment, and sales and service modules. Next slide. So a little bit about Revenova. We were the first to introduce a TMS application on the Salesforce cloud. We kind of coined it as CRM-powered transportation management. We serve both the direct shipper market who are managing their own logistics, as well as brokers and 3PLs that are managing logistics on behalf of their customers. It can offer a hybrid solution, meaning if you might be managing some of your own logistics, but also move some of your freight with third-party brokers, our TMS is capable of doing that. David, I think, did a great job of talking about the Salesforce cloud. We're big fans of it. We've been writing applications on it for over a decade, and I've had great success providing solutions on the Salesforce cloud. We think it definitely is an order of magnitude different than what you see out there from an integration standpoint, and we're very happy with it and have thousands of users daily using it. Our team has also had a lot of experience in industry. Some of our senior management here came from the logistics industry, as you can imagine, looking for opportunities based on some of the legacy environments that we've experienced, building on a solution that is more collaborative between your customers and your carriers and your co-workers, given the fact that visibility to what's going on the shipping side is crucial to virtually every experience that your customer has if they don't get their products on time, as advertised, and undamaged. Everything that happened before it, doesn't really matter sometimes. So we focus on three main areas. The customer relationship management capabilities, meaning leveraging what people are doing from a customer relationship management and providing real-time freight quoting and real-time freight information into that front office environment. Managing everything you need to manage around your carriers, so making sure that your carriers have the right licensing and authorities and insurance, and managing all the performance metrics around them so you can fine-tune how your logistics supply chain operates. And working across all freight modes from LTL all the way through air freight. I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. Go ahead and advance, please. So when we talk about all modes, we're referring to whether you move it by truck, train, ship, or plane. You can manage each one of those legs or combined legs of any of those modes in Revenova TMS and really handle everything that has to do relative to transportation management. How you're planning your transportation, pricing and optimizing it, booking and scheduling your carriers to arrive both at your shipper and consignee locations, tracking and tracing every movement on every leg, and then settling all the financial side of it through the invoices that you're going to receive from your carrier partners, then handing that off to things like Rootstock and or the financial aspects, or providing visibility back to the people in manufacturing and or purchasing on what is happening with the financial aspects of your transportation. And again, pushing track and trace and things to customer service and any claims that might arise. And this is another touch point with service. And I'll walk you through some of those use cases. Next slide, please. So if you look at this from a user's perspective versus a technology perspective, the technology really is enabling things that are very difficult to do with disparate platforms and disparate applications. When you're running products like Rootstock and Revenova and many of the Salesforce apps and any other partner app that lives natively on the cloud, all of a sudden we're basically extending a single database and we're sharing that data. Real-time collaboration and visibility of the TMS information regardless of where it needs to be used. So on the front end, as I mentioned, real-time information about quoting, about delivery, things that the salespeople might be very keenly interested in about their key accounts. It's not a back office feature. It's highly visible to anybody who needs to see it on the front end. Imagine having to coordinate field service events with shipments, giving that visibility to the field service people, and at the same time giving that kind of information to the support desks as well. If shipments show up and they're damaged, they're probably calling their customer service or salesperson complaining about it, but being able to quickly collaborate with the folks in logistics, maybe generate an RMA out of Rootstock to get new product out the door quickly and be able to deliver a estimated time of arrival for those types of shipments. So quite a bit of collaboration and visibility is required across not only your internal employee structure, but also out to your customers and suppliers, and providing portals, real-time communities where they can interact with you, tell you when things are being shipped to you. Your customers can look at their own status of shipments online and provide commentary. And your carriers can also provide updates through multiple mechanisms in our TMS directly into the platform, which again then flows into the workflow across all the departments. So when you deploy Rootstock, Revenova, and other Force.com apps, it really acts and functions like a single application, much the way you'd really want it to. Next slide. Here's a good example, and really hitchhiking on what David talked about in terms of adaptability and being able to tailor your user interfaces and your user experience to the needs of your specific deployment. So whether on the left-hand side, whether you're deploying portals out to your customers or carriers where they can collaborate with you on their orders and their shipments and anything that has to relate to a service experience, it can all be unified in one end user customer community experience, whether it's coming from the TMS or Rootstock or any of the sales and service cloud applications. And conversely, internally, whether you're working on a browser, tablet, mobile phone, you need multi-currency or multi-language needs, the platform is fully capable of doing that, and we've got multiple deployments where we're deployed across a multi-currency, multi-device, multi-language implementation, especially if you're shipping products in and out of Canada. You'll have experienced that, and we've got a number of deployments where we're crossing borders across the globe relative to our transportation management. Next slide, please. So I'm about to turn it over to Aaron. I just want to talk a little bit about our customer base. We have, like I said, thousands of users using our application across many customers. And one of the things we're most proud of is our ability to execute and deliver for our clients. And so if you go find the App Exchange, you can look at a number of the App Exchange reviews that we have up there. From a service delivery standpoint, we've got, we're very particular about making sure our customers are very happy. And one of our happiest customers is Aaron Sanders at Tesla. And I'll turn it over to Aaron now.
Okay.
All right.
I guess I could read
Aaron. Yeah, you want to read your bio?
My own bio? Sure. So I'm the associate manager in supply chain for Tesla Solar City and the recent merge there. Of course, you know Tesla's mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy through increasingly affordable electric vehicles, in addition to renewable energy and storage. And I function in the renewable energy side from the Solar City acquisition, so anything solar or battery related. You can go to the next slide here, but basically what I'm going to do is give you an idea of what it was like for someone who was tasked with creating or providing a multi-billion-dollar company with a transportation management system and had never heard of Salesforce before. It could have been a comic book series for all I knew. So give you an idea, that 120 days we went from what is Salesforce to a full-scale rollout for a multi-million spend in transportation costs per month. So day 1 through 30, we did a requirements analysis. What are we going to require this system to do? We designed, developed, implemented, and I can speak to the terminology that was used earlier. It was more of a point and click or configure rather than writing code. It was a very user-friendly process. So we created it in 30 days, tested it for 90 days in a standalone organization. We didn't tie it into anything internally with Rootstock, just to test the TMS and Revenova functions really first. During that time, we reviewed feedback, whether or not it would be a good return on investment long term. We designed further functions and processes that would utilize more Rootstock capabilities, things like RMA processes, case processes, things where we could get feedback from our internal customers and users, and then designed a few ERP to TMS integrations that we would later roll out with. And I'll show you some metrics that we have in our 2015 non-Salesforce processes versus our 2016 Salesforce processes for the markets and regions that we implemented in. So hopefully this will give you an idea of what it was like to actually be in your shoes, or maybe you're a current user or a brand new shopping around, looking around here. So next slide, please. This is some hard numbers attached to one of the things that was mentioned earlier. It does act like a single application across multiple departments. I'm not going to go through all of this, but basically on the top of the screen, you'll see that there were 10 minutes applied of a human, a person, into every invoice that was coming through our process, and it equaled about 330 hours per month, with a team of 5 accounts payable specialists auditing, processing, cost allocating every transportation invoice that came through to be paid. And you can see at the bottom, we changed that from having literal physical invoices mailed to people, processed, printed, filed, to having a cloud-based, paperless, automatic and beautifully time, date stamped, auditable trail. And when you're in a larger company, the ability to pull up documentation and things in a reverse analysis scenario can be crucial, especially at quarter end and year end things. And we moved from spending 330 hours a month processing invoices to spending about 5 hours a month. It went from 5 people dedicated just to transportation invoices to 1 person dedicated just to transportation invoices. So that alone was an incredible value to us that was noteworthy but not one that we really saw coming when we were looking into capitalizing on the Salesforce Rootstock Revenova applications. Okay, next slide, please. In our 90-day pilot, something that we looked at heavily was ensuring that we could not only capitalize on savings, but that we could also document those savings so we would have something to metric ourselves against. So what you're looking at here on the left, the blue bar is our pilot. We just tested, I think, 60 loads just to try it out. Our pilot highest quoted or highest returned rate from a carrier. The green bar is the average quoted rate. I don't know why it says lowest quoted rate. I apologize for that, but it was the average quoted rate returned from carriers. This is multi-mode from parcel, LTL, rail, full truckload. And then the orange is the rate that we actually tendered and moved our product for. So we were able to, on every load, on every shipment, finitely indicate what our projected and actual savings were. And a picture to the right there, something we did not have was a uniform presentation of documents. We were able to provide this as a feature in the TMS where we could provide the carrier, the shipper, the broker, the to, the from site, everyone with the exact same documentation. Obviously automatically generated from the fields in the Salesforce objects. And it was something we had not had before. We were always trying to find what fields were where and you know, what carrier names, you know, were on what side of the invoice. It was quite the lengthy process, just visually. It was a blessing, really, to have a uniform document. Let's see. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is an example of one of the later iterations we created utilizing the Rootstock functionality, where step one you see was a returned email of a request from one of our internal users operationally in the field, asking at a specific location for a specific part number that they needed, and you can see all the links below. Now I want to point out here in the first picture on the bottom left-hand side, the links that are shown as URLs are not Salesforce, are not always Salesforce related. We were able to integrate outside platforms, some via API, some via just some simple customizations that Dave at Revenova helped us put together, and we could access outside system links through our internal case systems. And you can see here there were automatic notifications. Step two, the progress of the case, the progress of the request, and then step three being closed. All of this being automatically pushed as if it were a case or IT ticketing system, really. And we were able to create and customize that, even with our nice little logo there. Solar City doesn't say Tesla, but it was very valuable. This proved to be another thing that we did not see as a value during the pilot, but added tremendous value. And we received some unsolicited feedback from our 90+ residential warehousing locations, thanking us for implementing this process. Let's see, current status. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is a view of an internal standard operating procedure that we were able to implement. PVM stands for photovoltaic material process. And the top left corner is the initiation, the bottom right corner is the completion. This process used to take literally a week, go back and forth between 3 departments, and was not easily analyzed in retrospect. But you can see here we were quite literally able to put multiple departments and multiple softwares on the same page, literally. And it just gives you a visual representation how we were able to go from a fulfillment and planning team calculate individual parts and piece demand through optimizations in the Rootstock objects and platforms. All this internal lingo, was obviously customized and unique to Solar City Tesla. Spit that out into a dispositioning through Rootstock that would create material orders, sales orders, material transfer requests, and those translated with literally the click of a button into TMS loads, what we called throwing the workload or throwing the bucket over the fence to the other team in a way that was, we could catch it, we saw it coming, we knew it was coming, and it was easily done. A major efficiency gained here was the fact that we could remove many steps involved in downstream processes further upstream and do it automatically. We were very pleased with that. And this is on the integration side. One of the things that Tesla advised early on was that the most constraining element of software implementation was integrating ERP, TMS, and WMS systems onto the same platform when you're starting with a segregated concept or process. So we were, again, to reiterate this slide, we were able to put multiple departments onto a single page, literally, and it was very helpful. I think I'm bumping on the time. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is to show you how quickly we launched. In a few short months, we processed 16,000 loads. That's multi-mode. You can see here, April obviously was our piloting, and we scaled immediately in May, scalable, replicable in all the loads and all the processes, and it began gaining steam and internal value so much that you can see the loads per month, more and more departments and more teams internally. We have something like 15,000 employees began requesting to utilize our system and process to move the things that they needed to move. And the processes scaled on demand. We were not only able to scale on demand, but we required less and less people as the time progressed. Excuse me. We have major distribution centers down there on the left-hand corner, and you can see how all of these loads were able to move forward. We called it 0 to 60. If you don't know Tesla, we like to put something that everyone thinks is impossible out there and then do it in a very quickened pace. So we had an expedited launch, and we Rootstock and Revenova were able to scale to our volatile volume pretty much immediately. See the next slide, or am I done? Okay, yeah, so this is my last slide. 2015 versus 2016 savings. This is in the market and geographic segment that we utilize. Here, I'll go through the 4 bullet points. We averaged internally a savings of 28%, our 2015 versus 2016 savings, and that was through the means of multiple, deals we had going on, cost-saving initiatives. 14% we had an average of before we implemented Revenova. However, after, we had an average of 34%. So effectively, immediately after implementing, we had a 20% average savings in transportation costs versus our year previous, which equated to just over $6 million just in transportation costs year over year. And that wasn't even a full 12 months. That was an 8-month tenure that we had to query against. The graph below is an internal metric of cost per watts installed, something we use. And it just shows that each month we, for the most part, did have an incredible amount of savings. And I will say this was literally beyond the bookend expectations of savings that we had hoped for or anticipated in implementing a Salesforce or ERP solutions to what we currently had going on. So from a hillbilly's perspective that didn't know what Salesforce was previous to being assigned the project, I was personally very pleased. Development, implementation, everything was really very smooth, and I was very pleased with it. Enough so that I thought it appropriate to take a few minutes out of my own workday and share that experience with the rest of the enterprise here. So, okay, thank you.
All right. Well, Dave and Mike and Aaron, thank you guys very much for your excellent presentations today. Let's see here. Before we go, everybody's questions, just a quick reminder that this webinar will be posted on our website at www.rootstock.com. And of course, after the webinar, if you have any further inquiries, please email us at marketing@rootstock.com. We'll now answer questions submitted during today's presentation, as well as take any new questions. And just as a reminder, you can still submit questions to the questions pane in your attendee control panel. Okay, guys, our first question today is, does the system offer the capability to connect suppliers and logistics providers real time to the business using Salesforce, Rootstock, Revenova? And I guess either Dave or Mike, one of you guys.
Mike, I heard you mention that. Why don't you go ahead with that one?
Sure. This is Mike. Yep, absolutely. So we support real-time connectivity with carriers and that real-time information that can be shared across the ecosystem. So that can be pushed out to any departmental user or any community user that's on the system. So if the carrier has real-time capabilities, we've already linked into hundreds, actually, of carriers that have real-time capabilities.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, we have one more question here. We saw the quick timelines that Solar City referenced for getting the system up and running and the fast benefits. Is that the same typical time for Rootstock ERP as well?
This is Dave. I think I'll go ahead and address that. So an end-to-end ERP implementation typically takes longer than the few months that Aaron had alluded to being kind of the kickoff point for their project timeline. So they were focused on a couple of initiatives around Revenova for the TMS pieces and Rootstock on the supply chain planning side. I believe their Rootstock implementation from start to initial go live was 8 to 12 weeks, which is very fast, but again, it was fairly focused. Our typical timeline for implementation for an average size customer, let's say mid-size, not necessarily enterprise level entity, would probably be in the range of 5 to 7 months. So still for ERP, very quick timelines for turn. Obviously larger and larger organizations that may be longer timelines, and typically you're getting into phased implementations. But still, those types of end-to-end ERP implementation numbers compared to what we've historically seen from companies, continuing to be challenged with trying to implement legacy ERP systems in terms of years, not typically months, still speaks to the speed of implementing this type of solution.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dave. That wraps up our question Q&A for today. Before we close out,
I encourage you to follow Rootstock Software and Revenova on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and more for the latest and most important information about cloud ERP and transportation management systems. Follow Rootstock Software and Revenova on social media today. Thank you very much for joining us today. The webinar is now over.